Alright, been a while since we did one of these 2 weeks to be precise, but like always, we're very happy to be back for episode 18 of the Women's Cricket Podcast, the show where we talk about all things women's cricket. Neha joining us, like always. Neha, क्या हाल है? Excited for tonight's match? सीधा थोड़ा IPL की बात कर सकते हैं. It's okay. I don't think it's like an embargo, strict embargo that we've set on it. Excited for tonight?
Hi Akshay, again, really happy to be here. I know we're doing this podcast after a while, but the excitement is clearly not lost on me. The match tonight is definitely one of the things that I'm looking forward to. But at least on the women's cricket front, right, we have our Indian women playing in a very exciting tri series, which has thrown up a lot of interesting plot lines and narratives. And elsewhere, we have World Cup venues and dates being announced. Yeah, which is very disappointing considering we have a World Cup that's happening at home later this year, and clearly we're still operating on reports. So let's probably dissect everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, वहाँ पे फिक्सर्स अनाउंस हो चुके, ऑलमोस्ट बता चुके कि ये डेट्स पे ये मैचेस होगा, और हम यहाँ पे बोल रहे हैं कि हाँ अक्टूबर में हो सकता है, नवंबर में हो सकता है, सितंबर में भी स्टार्ट हो सकता है वैसे तो, बट देखते क्या होता है. Such is the state of affairs, I guess. Let's hope that it does improve as the date comes by. So fingers crossed on that front. Of course, lots to talk about when it comes to the India, Sri Lanka, South Africa tri-series. Also elsewhere we saw Nat Sciver-Brunt being announced as the England skipper for the future. Some things to talk about on that front. And last but not the least, like Neha mentioned, the World Cup venues for the 2026 T20 event were also announced by the England Cricket Board. Well done on them. Of course, Lords being hosts or playing host to the final. That's really nice to see. And of course, there was also a fun tidbit going around. Every time Lords has hosted a World Cup final, England's gone on to win the trophy. So let us see if that actually happens the fourth time this time around. So dekhte hain kya hota hai, of course. I guess, let's just cut to the chase. Let's see the talk about the ongoing tri-series there. Oops, apologies for this. There you go. So let's talk about the tri-series then, Neha. 3 matches done and dusted. Each of these sides have played each other once. And the next round of games start from tomorrow. What have you made of it so far? As a tri-series, as an event overall, what have you made of it? Let's begin from there.
Yeah, I mean the Tri Series again is a wonderful place to start off our conversation, right? Because right now with the IPL happening in full flow, a lot of people have I think just forgotten about women's cricket. So a great reminder with this series happening. I think so far we have seen competitive matches, right? Off record, we were talking about how India has done exceedingly well. Not very surprising considering against the probably not so better ranked teams, India does end up performing really well, and it's versus teams like Australia and England where the real litmus test sort of happens. But South Africa, quite surprisingly, have looked slightly off color. There have been flashes of brilliance with some players, coming to the fore and actually delivering. But collectively, as the unit, registering those 2 losses is certainly not doing a world of good for their confidence. And Sri Lanka too, I think, would pride themselves in the kind of performances they've put in so far. They're playing hosts. And for us fans here in India, watching on fan code, whatever little broadcast is still, a win-win. And Sri Lanka has made it worthwhile, right, with their performances, especially, in the match versus South Africa, where they did register that win. It felt like such a clinical win, although on paper it might look like, thoda scrappy tha, they lost those 5 wickets. But you could still see, right, that they were able to get the better of South Africa, restricting them to a smaller target and then eventually chasing it down. And even the tri-series just began on such a dampener, right? On a dampening note, so to say, with the rains having such a massive say. Yet, I think both the teams did make a contest out of it, and India would be riding on some confidence. I think at this point, any and all wins would be welcome to just figure out the kind of combination they want to opt for at the World Cup. Because one of the major talking points was how a set of new players have been blooded into the team. Does this just make it all the more confusing as to who will be the final 15 for the World Cup? But again, to see a lot of names performing, which we will talk about in the course of our discussion, is good signs for India. And at large, I think is setting up the tri-series really well.
Yeah, let's just talk about, the top order there for Team India. We've been speaking about how probably Shefali Verma should have gotten a chance over here, given the kind of run she had at the domestic circuit earlier on this year and also the WPL. Wasn't to be the case. They stuck to the incumbent, Pratika Rawal, and she's almost vindicated their choice that way, Neha. 2 games, 2 more than decent outings, to say the least. Do you think Pratika Rawal now clearly is the front runner going forward, heading to the World Cup, that is?
Absolutely, unless the Indian think tank thinks otherwise and plays some 60 chess and just somehow brings in Shefali Verma back into the mix. At least Pratika Rawal has given us all signs to be excited about, to feel that the opening duo is in very good hands. The way she has just been, maneuvering her knocks, just getting those boundaries. A lot of people might feel, she's dominant on one side, but then she just ends up surprising us with, hitting shots on the leg side, and she just looks very confident right now, just able to score runs. And what is incredibly special about her is the kind of calm mind that she has on her shoulders, the kind of synergy she has with Smriti Mandana. And in case there's Smriti Mandana being dismissed, the partnership she's able to establish with Harleen Deol, Harmanpreet Kaur, and Jemima coming in later on is definitely good signs for India. So very impressed with her. With the run of form she's going through, a purple patch, so to say, could not have asked for a better start to her ODI career. She also manages to, be the fastest to reach 500 runs in women ODIs, which is a fantastic stat to, have at the start of your career. She's put in those hard yards in the domestic circuit, scored runs for Delhi, now plies her trade for railways, and it's just fantastic signs to, see young players make a mark like this. Hopefully, going ahead, she gets more opportunities, and a few bad performances doesn't, entirely sideline her from the system. Hopefully, a WPL contract is in the offing, next season. But so far, whatever I've seen of her, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, has been extremely positive. And for all the fans, who are like, Shefali ko lana tha, would probably, just be like, okay, fine. As long as the runs are being scored, India will still, be extremely happy with the way she's been going.
It's, like, I'm still sort of stuck in two minds that way. Technique wise, I don't think I have any issues as such with Pratika Rawal. She definitely has the game to succeed in the ODI format. She seems like that quintessential ODI player, who absorbs the pressure, takes in a bit of time, knows how to, play the new ball, wait for it, and then, strike rotation, like you mentioned, another very important facet of a game. The running between the wickets, especially with Harleen Deol, that partnership with her, was something to really cherish, because it's not often we see, when it comes to the Indian women's team, good running between the wickets. So that was nice to see. And of course, she is one of those busy players, might not necessarily look very attractive in terms of a stroke play, might not be very aggressive. In fact, that was a criticism a lot of people had for कि यार starting में बहुत ही ज़्यादा slow start कर रही हो आप, थोड़ा आप जल्दी शायद खेल सकते हो, power play, try and maximize the field restrictions and all of that. But I don't know, for some reason, I've still not been able to convince myself entirely off of her. I do think I'm now a lot more convinced of her than I was, say, before this try series began. But I still don't think I'm in. Apologies. Yeah, you guys can hear me now, right? My mic did disconnected. Yeah. So that's my concern there when it comes to Pratika Rawal. Great technique. She's got a fantastic defense, and that I think will hold her in very good stead while playing some of the better sides. All in all, you cannot deny the fact that she's been an absolute bang for Team India. Scoring so many runs. यहाँ पे भी 250s बना चुकी है. She's already scored in excess of 100 runs. This is the highest run scorer so far. Albeit just a couple of games done, but even then, she's clearly shown that she is cut out for this level. वो स्ट्राइक रेट वाला थोड़ा सा अगर वो पहले से एक्सेलरेट कर पाती है ना, I think she's got the gas. Now it's all about accelerating at the right point in time. Right now, it feels like she's probably waiting a bit too late in terms of trying to accelerate. That's one. And my other reason why I'm not entirely convinced of her is not entirely down to her. It's because we've got Smriti and then you've got Harleen Deol at number 3. I think that's an extremely one-dimensional top 3 to have. You don't have anyone who can be attacking from the get-go. Although Smriti has done that, to be honest, in that game, especially against Sri Lanka, the opener, 43 or 45. She was the one who was the aggressor, who was playing well. But I want Smriti to play long. I want her partner to play aggressively, because Smriti has shown that she can score the daddy hundreds when needed. Pratika Rawal ko wo bhi dikhana baki. I know people might throw the 150 at me against Ireland, but whatever, you get what I mean, right? So that's one. And इसीलिए हम स्टिल, या तो तुम हरलीन दियोल के साथ आपको कुछ करना पड़ेगा या फिर प्रतिका रावल के साथ कुछ करना पड़ेगा. I don't know if it's my bias or it just seems like a probably I'd say boring. It's a very boring top 3. And I know It's not their job to look interesting or to play interesting cricket. Their job is to win games, which they have done. So that's why right now it's hard to pinpoint. But I just don't want to be one of those people who's just waiting for them to commit an error so that I can hold the swords out and say, "Ha, dekha, dekha, मैं बोल रहा था ना ये होगा." But I just don't, मतलब थोड़ा सा चाहिए. You just need a bit more of in terms of the way they attack. I just wish there would be a bit more attacking, and that would make that top three a lot more explosive, a lot more lethal. अभी क्या होता है 20 ओवर में 50, 60, 70 रन आप बनाते हो ना, you're not necessarily throwing the opposition out of the equation over there. You're still letting them in. अगर गलती से एक दो विकेट भी गिर जाता है ना, then the opposition's completely back in the game. That's why अगर 20 ओवर में अगर आप 120, 130, 110 भी होते हो, I think there's a lot more potential there. That's probably why I'm being a bit more harsh on someone like a Pratika Rawal, because runs के मामले में तो उन्होंने दिखा दिया कि बस दम तो है यहाँ पे. So what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, agree, disagree, vehemently disagree?
I think I'm somewhere in the middle there, Akshay, because Pratika Rawal again has given me a lot of signs to be excited about. Because with Shafali, it was always, like high risk, high reward. The day she gets going, she's unstoppable. But she did get her fair share of opportunities in ODIs, was unable to do her thing. And it's not that I wouldn't fault her, right? She again went back to the domestic circuit, worked really hard, got those runs, kind of explored other dimensions of her game. But now when you have someone like Pratika who's doing incredibly well, I think, I'd still be entirely pleased with it. Probably at the number 3 spot, Harleen does become a bone of contention. But I think we just probably have to have a look at her numbers, and you can't sideline a player, right? The numbers again just speak very gloriously of the kind of form she's been in, thanks to all of those 50s and centuries that she scored. But the strike rate becomes a massive, massive concern, right? So for me, at least with Pratika, I'm happy that she's scoring runs at the opening slot. But the number 3, I completely agree with you. There, it becomes a problem because I think it was the game versus South Africa, right, where India was batting first. I kind of did want India to, go that extra mile, try to get that 290 or 300, because South Africa was just like within touching distance of actually chasing it down. Had India's bowling not pulled things back in our favor. So again, the strike rate and getting to those big totals, we don't want like our number 3 to kind of not give you those kind of stats. So India might want to rethink that strategy, but at least so far in the Tri Series, it has still looked decent. India's managed to pull off wins, but going ahead, I think that will be there. To just add on a quick point about Pratika, I think the other reason why everyone's more critical is the kind of teams she has coded with. They feel like the real test will come, when India plays probably England later this year, or even Australia for that matter before the World Cup, right? So I'd still probably hold my horses and see how she performs against those teams, and then is able to capitalize on the opportunities she gets. Or India might have to, the think tank will do it for us. I think before itself of just trying to again rejig the order. But at least till the World Cup, I think Pratika is still a vehement yes from my side for the opening role. I think we should back her considering the kind of start she's had.
I mean, that's where I probably also sympathize a bit with Pratika, because she's playing a losing battle, so to say. अभी वो अच्छा भी करेगी, लोग बोलेंगे हाँ ना, इनके सामने तो अच्छा करना ही था. अच्छा नहीं करेगी तो बोलेंगे अरे इनके सामने भी अच्छा नहीं किया तो इंग्लैंड ऑस्ट्रेलिया के सामने तो क्या ही करेगी. So it's very difficult. I get it, and I know I'm also guilty of it, which is why I'm just trying to understand what would be the balanced approach of viewing this sort of conundrum, this problem that Team India is facing. That's why I think यार मतलब Harleen Dion जैसे नेहा ने भी कहा, that Sri Lanka game comes to mind. We were chasing like 150 or 140, 150 और अच्छा स्टार्ट करने के बाद 2 लगातार मेडन खेली यार, मेडन. और क्यों? And again, in a top 3 जहाँ पे स्मृति Pratika कम से कम, see Pratika for what it's worth, despite starting slow, वो कम से कम 80-90 के स्ट्राइक रेट पे एंड कर जाती है. Yeah, with Harleen she's ending up with strike rates of 73-67. तुम अगर एंड भी वैसे करोगी तो that's putting a lot of pressure on the players to come later, and that's where I think probably my issue is with the fact कि वो top 3 एकदम ही one dimensional हो सकता है, especially on slightly more trickier surfaces where Smriti might be playing herself into a shell, or Pratika Rawal might not be able to get those odd bounties that she's been able to now. So फिर क्या, where will the runs come from? That will be another answer they'll have to find out. So देखते हैं क्या होता है वहाँ पे. Let's just take a few comments, of course, before we talk about Team India further. Because of Pratika, is Shefali out of contention for white ball or in white ball cricket? क्या लगता है नेहा? Do you think now she's very truly out of the game for the time being?
I think I just probably look at it this way that when BCCI announced the contracts, right, Shefali was still in the scheme of things. She was in, I think, grade B or something. So Shefali is definitely not entirely out of contention because again, if you look at Pratika's game, it's probably more geared for the likes of your ODIs and tests. But in T20s, you still want someone as dynamic as Shefali, who has not done a lot of wrong. So perhaps here is where India can adopt the strategy of giving Shefali the opening slot, especially in the T20I side of things, and still probably wait it out on the ODI side of things, right? Because Shefali has that tendency to get those big runs. We've seen her perform incredibly well in domestics and in the WPL as well. So at least for now, I want to probably still keep Shefali in the T20 side of things and not probably just get her in the ODI things. Yeah.
Interesting. देखते हैं वहां पे कैसे होता है. In fact, speaking about Shefali, Janvi also goes on to say, can Shefali go and play some England county cricket? Clearly being the top run scorer in both WPL and the domestic circuit has not been enough for her to make a comeback. Valid point. County cricket is already chal raha as we speak. Neha, do you think there's any merit in her going and plying her trade over there? Do you think that could help her fasten her comeback to the Indian side?
Yeah, I think Shefali can absolutely do that because we see a lot of teams in the Women's One Day Cup, recruiting players like overseas players, like Susie Bates and all of them are playing. So Shefali is clearly not engaged with anything at the moment. She can probably actually just do that because it again kind of solidifies her case for that England tour as well. And in case Pratika, I hope she doesn't, has a bad vein of form or just dips, probably Shefali can again just throw her hat in the ring. So I definitely say if a team is offering Shefali to go and the BCCI is okay with it, I think she should absolutely take the opportunity with both hands. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's just down to now teams offering her a contract. So I'm pretty sure Shefali herself would love to, go and spend some time in England instead of just training back at home without any game time. But yeah, I don't think it's an issue or a case of BCCI not letting her go, especially when it comes to men's cricket. BCCI has always been very forthcoming about it. Ki, जाओ बहनों तुम सब बाहर जाके खेलो. And with county cricket, though, even men's cricketers go and play because it's not the T20 format. BCCI has never really had an issue. ODI is one-day format or red ball cricket ke liye BCCI has never really stopped anyone from going outside and playing. So if she gets a gig, it'll be great for her for sure. Janvi also goes on to say, I'm now convinced of Pratika, but she needs to replace Harleen, not Shefali. Shefali, Smriti, Pratika would be my choice. This low strike rate approach will fail against stronger teams. But I must say, Smriti is playing better with Pratika as a partner. Both strike rate and how much he's been running between the wickets. Fair point on both counts there, Janvi. My concern once again with Pratika at number 3 is we don't know how will she play post the power play, especially if she has to start against spin, what her game is going to be like. These are unknowns for us. I'm pretty sure the think tank, the coaching staff, they'll have a better idea. They must have done training sessions, match simulations, because of all the background work that's being done. They will have a better idea. Apne ko nahi pata. So if it's a tick to those boxes, she starts decently against spin, she does not mind the field restrictions not being in place and all of that, then I don't mind Pratika at number 3. It's definitely something they must consider. But Bhanumati meanwhile says, can't India play Jemmy at number 3 and then get in another finisher? That's another option they can consider. But if they do that, Harleen goes out, number 3 pe Jemmy, number 4 Harman, number 5 is vacant, number 6 is Richa. So who do you bring in at number 5? Neha, someone like a Kanika Ahuja comes to mind. Do you have any other names?
I mean, I was thinking of someone like Amanjot Kaur as well, kind of made a name for herself during the WPL. I don't know if it would be a massive punt in getting someone like a Kashvi Gautam up there, but even someone like Tejal Hasannis, right? I know she doesn't come in with that quintessential brand of attack or bang bang sort of cricket, but I think she also would be such an asset in that middle order, right? Because we don't have a lot of lefties coming in later. Probably the next one would be Deepti Sharma, coming in that much later. So India does have like a lot of options to consider here. But if you're looking at a place where you just want more runs, I'd probably still, want someone like Tejal Hasannis. If not, Amanjot Kaur, Kashmi Gautam getting just pushed up. But I hope India doesn't go to the strategy of, just elevating Deepti Sharma because it just doesn't make sense. And she may not be able to deliver as per those expectations. But again, Akshay, do you have any other names in mind? Do you agree with me on this one?
Filal, though, I'm fine. Yeah, I don't want to bring in too many sort of players from outside the system 4 or 5 months before the World Cup. अभी के लिए जो है लोग इतना काफी है, because there's no point trying to experiment so close to the World Cup. And like you said, even with Deepti Sharma, I think it's too late to experiment now. मतलब ये series तो खत्म हो गया. I don't think ये series के बीच में कुछ करेंगे, which leaves us with just the 6 ODIs that India play against England and Australia. That's too few games for anyone to be able to cement their position as a newcomer, in that position, that is. तो मतलब नहीं बनता वहां पे. तो I'll just be like, भाई ठीक है, रहने दो, कोई नहीं, अपन wait करते हैं, for this World Cup cycle to end, and then probably from the next championship cycle they can consider. And I think Deepti Sharma is a name they should consider. I really do feel कि अभी है वो. I know a lot of people might be like, नहीं यार, उन्होंने कुछ नहीं किया ज़्यादा and all, but I think she has the game. Like, ODI is the one format she should be able to crack if she's given a consistent run. Consistent being the operative word there, of course. Batting की तो काफी बात कर ली. Let's talk about India's bowling as well, and we cannot not talk about Sneh Rana while talking about India's bowling. Great WPL. No one saw that coming. But I don't think anyone saw this coming. The only Indian to have taken a fifer in the last 12 months, and it's Sneh Rana in both formats, Test and ODIs now. Yeah, matlab, she's really seemed to have, struck a purple patch right now.
Honestly, Sneh Rana is a gift that just keeps giving, right? Coming in as a replacement for Shreyanka and during the WPL for RCB, magical run, as you rightly pointed out, coming back in India colours and just delivering, right? I think first few matches, unko bhi shayad, she was just getting used to it, and a lot of people are just throwing, the word comeback queen at her. But it was perhaps after that fifer, that she was like, I humbly accept the title of comeback queen, because the number of, like challenges life has thrown at her, she's always managed to find a way to, get the best out of whatever that situation had to give. And it's just amazing to see her, on her return, be able to deliver so much for Team India. I hope she's able to continue in this vein of form, because while we are still probably, sitting quite confused about what is happening with Shreyanka Patil. We see her in every RCB match. We see her all across social media, but she's not playing for India with that lack of clarity. Having someone like Sneh Rana, being that sort of, I'd say, like for like replacement, doing so well, augurs really, really well for India. It's just the kind of mindset she has, what she offers to the team, just makes her such an unparalleled asset, right? A lot of people were questioning her white ball credentials, but every single time, she comes back with a comeback that's just way greater than the setback. Again, a very cheesy line there, but that's Sneh Rana for you. Every single time just manages to grab your attention, and how I hope she continues this vein of form as the Tri-Series continues as well. And she's definitely made a very big case for her, heading into that World Cup as well. And she's just broken down the door for selection. So I think the think tank will have a really tough time, if they want to exclude her. But so far, amazing signs, and hope she can keep evolving. Yeah.
Yeah, even 2 months ago in the middle of the WPL, if someone told me that Sneh Rana will not only make a comeback to Team India, she'll also take a fifer, I'd have probably laughed it off, saying, "Ki kya baat kar raha hai? Kuch to realistic bolo." But it's just funny, right? How sport works, how life works. Like, I remember talking about Sneh Rana earlier this year, January, during one of our episodes, where I was like, "Nee, yaar, abhi ke liye to I don't see Sneh Rana making a comeback." She is the ship has probably sailed for her right now, at least for the time being, when it comes to white ball cricket, because there's so many other players who've put their hat in the ring. Shreyanka Patil, Kanika Ahuja, again I'll take a name, I'll take her name too, and then Minu Mani had come in, she was playing so much. Then slow left armers में तो इतने सारे नाम आ चुके थे वहां पे. For her to not just cut through the clutter, but actually put herself out there and say कि boss, I'm not here just to survive, I'm here to thrive. This augurs very well for Team India, man. एकदम ही मजा आ गया देख के उनको. And she's genuinely bowled well. Like, once again, she's come up with those variations. She's come up with different angles now. She started bowling a lot more around the wicket. She's come up with delivery, the lengths that she's been hitting. Oh man, she's been nailing those lengths. Ekdam in between lengths for spinners. That 4 to 6 meter length is that perfect in between length where batters tend to be in 2 minds ki aage aao ki piche jao, and that's where she's been able to create that magic. She's also managed to develop a very strong arm ball. She had that before, but the fact that she's now been able to execute it a lot more better, she now knows how to use them. It's one thing to have variations. Yeah, variations हम सब develop कर सकते हैं. I mean, it's an acquired trait any which ways. It's not about having variations. It's about knowing when to use them. And that's why she's been really at the top of her game. Knowing when to use them, not overdoing them, just sticking to her strengths. बहुत मजा आ गया एकदम, मतलब बहुत ही ज्यादा शानदार bowling किया उन्होंने अब तक so far, WPL हो and even in the tri series so far. So hopefully she continues the good work, she keeps up that form, and hopefully we will get to see her at the World Cup as well. So maza to aayega definitely. She's really been phenomenally good so far. India should have some clarity on their pacers. They've tested many bowlers and are not fixed. With Rana now being injured, it has become even more difficult. Fair point that. Sneh Rana currently has a player of the match in her last Test, ODI and T20. Oh, nice. That is true. Na T20 WPL wo MI match. Yeah, nice. Also, guys, what's up with Shriyanka? Absolute radio silence on her fitness since the WPL. The only update I have is she's suffering from a back injury. इतना तो पता चल गया. She spoke about this recently. I don't know if you saw that video. She put out a video recently. जहाँ पे she speaks about how she was excited to play the WPL, but unfortunately she had to miss it due to a back injury. तो इतना तो पता चल गया कि भाई उनके कमर में कुछ प्रॉब्लम है. अभी वो क्या प्रॉब्लम है, किस हद तक अभी वो रिकवर कर चुकी हैं, वो तो मतलब भगवान जाने. We have no idea or update on that, Darshan. But this is the update we have, and the other update we have is that she will be attending tonight's game at the Chinnaswamy. So अगर कोई जाके उनसे वहां पे मिल सकता है तो जाके मिल लो. बाकी तो यार, there's literally nothing on Shriyanka Patil, which is bizarre. Like, again, just makes me wonder why be so cryptic about these things. Just be honest and let the fans know कि भाई चल के आ रहा है, and we'll be fine with it. So पता नहीं. But sticking to the bowling front, of course, Sneh Rana, excellent. But apart from that, is there, Neha, what are the other names who really caught your eye so far for Team India?
For me, it definitely has to be Kashmi Gautam, right? I know she may not be amongst the wickets as much as we would have expected her to be, especially in that first match versus Sri Lanka. The kind of line and length she was bowling in, I think she's just exploiting the conditions so beautifully, setting it up well for Arundhati Reddy, at the other end to get the wickets. So, as much as we're missing Renuka Singh Thakur and Titash Sadhu, it's nice to see Kashmi Gautam and Arundhati Reddy, doing the bulk of the heavy lifting. And even Deepti Sharma, right? She just quietly goes under the radar, does her thing, gets those crucial wickets. So that, I think she's another name who has quite impressed me. And even Sri Charni, for that matter. Again, my mind goes back to the Sri Lanka game where she did, pocket a few crucial wickets. A lot of, I think us, including me, were questioning ki she hasn't done that well in the one-day side of things in domestic. Has done well in age group cricket, but not exactly the senior women's one-day trophy side of things. And her making her presence here, was it more of like a recency bias with respect to the WPL and them feeling she would be an ideal left-arm spinner there, but has again proven all of us wrong with that amazing performance. As much as Sneh Rana is, right now eating the cake with those amazing performances, there have been a lot of background performances that have, really set India up well. Hopefully, will continue to do that for India through the rest of the tri-series. Because I feel like the whole discourse again is, India's probably just going to win this tri-series. It isn't going to be too difficult. But we saw what happened in the Asia Cup, right, which was extremely disappointing, where India did succumb to Sri Lanka in the end. So I hope India doesn't get very complacent right now, as the bowling attack seems to be shaping up real well. And I think Sneh Rana is clearly leading the pack there.
Yeah, there you go, just in time. I mean, interesting points that you mentioned there. Kashmi Gautam, firstly, I've genuinely enjoyed watching her bowl. I do agree with Neha. She's probably been a tad bit unlucky there on the wickets front, but good bowling, and that's all that matters for me. I do want to take this comment before we go further and sort of talk about the other teams as well. अगर हम लोग रावल और दियोल के strong teams के against lack of performances पे judge कर रहे हैं, तो राणा का भी numbers are poor against Australia and England. Very interesting point. Cricket Ladki again seems like a new handle. Please do make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to us if you haven't already. हम लोग एक पॉडकास्ट रन करते हैं और हर हफ्ते यूजुअली करते हैं. अभी आईपीएल की वजह से और ज्यादा वुमेन्स क्रिकेट ना होने की वजह से हम लोग इसको अभी कंसिस्टेंटली नहीं करे. अभी 2-3 हफ्ते में एक बार करते हैं. आईपीएल के बाद हर सैटरडे को हम लोग आपको यहीं पे मिलेंगे, तो प्लीज सब्सक्राइब कीजिएगा. But yeah, coming to this point, this again goes back to a point that I have for myself. So when I'm engaging batters and bowlers, this is a valid, argument to make. कि, batters अगर अच्छा करे तो bowlers का क्या? But the difference is, bowlers के लिए, see, batters react, bowlers act. Fundamentally, there's a difference between the two skill sets. So when I say that, bowlers, when they bowl, they are the ones actually initiating the action. They start. You get what I mean, right, Neha? Batters can only react to what's thrown at them. Simple. So this is the fundamental difference. Why that's different is, bowlers, what they do will not change based on oppositions. Matlab, a good ball is a good ball, irrespective of who the opposition is. So if, I don't know, Sneh Rana bowls a good ball to South Africa, it's not like that very same ball will become a bad ball versus Australia. She has to do the same. But for Pratika Rawal, hitting, I don't know, Freya Sargent from Ireland, it's not the same as hitting an Ashley Gardner from Australia. Fundamentally, they might be the same skill sets, but they're two different bowlers, two different skill sets. They bring in a lot more to the table. So I hope you get what I'm trying to say, both cricket Ladki and I hope I've not complicated it. So that's why bowlers bowling, which is why IPL, I'll just draw examples once again. Scouts, or when we as armchair critics, when we look at certain talents, we always speak about how it's easier for bowlers to make the leap to a higher level. Under 19 cricket से ऊपर तक bowlers के लिए आसान होता है क्योंकि उनको जो वो good bowling है ना, मतलब good length है जो भी डालना होता है, they have to stick to that. But for batters, that's not the case. For batters, it's going to be trickier. For batters at under 19 level might be facing two bad deliveries every over. That won't be the case at the highest level of the sport. There, they might not get any bad deliveries. They'll just have to keep playing the good deliveries. So it's a lot more difficult for them to make the jump. So that's where, once again, you cannot sort of directly compare this. Very valid point, though. I get where you're coming from, but I hope that to some extent, answers your question or your argument. एंड अगेन टू बी क्लियर क्रिकेटर की हम ये नहीं बोले कि प्रतिका रावल ने अच्छा नहीं किया है, प्लीज आप वो मत समझिएगा. शी वॉज एक्सीलेंट एंड शी स्टिल इज, लेकिन वो हमेशा रहेगा ही ना यार. मतलब आप जितना चाहे जो चाहे कर लो, आप ये मना नहीं कर सकते कि आयरलैंड के सामने खेलने में और ऑस्ट्रेलिया के सामने खेलने में थोड़ा फर्क तो है. सो यू विल जस्ट हैव टू बी अ टैड बिट मोर कॉग्निसेंट ऑफ दैट. बाकी तो ऑफ कोर्स यार बहुत शानदार खेली है वो, मतलब उसमें तो कोई डाउट ही नहीं है फॉर श्योर. Do you think India can try more paces apart from Renuka, because she's the only regular pace bowler in the playing 11? I'll answer this question. Bhanumati, shortly put, simply put, no. Kyunki World Cup बहुत पास है. We are just 4 months away from the World Cup. On top of that, when you have the luxury of being able to play pacers like Arundhati Reddy and Kashi Gautam, who also add value with the ball, with the bat, then why do you want to bring in only pacers? Matlab, it's not like frontline pacers will give you something more that these two don't. Arundhati Reddy has been a great pacer herself. Kashi Gautam's been a great bowler herself. So why do you have to worry about it? तो मेरे हिसाब से तो उसका कोई टेंशन नहीं है. Another, and ऊपर से frontline pacers कौन था? Shanti Gaud was the one name I thought could have been a part of the setup, at least ahead of someone like a Shuchi Upadhyay. But whatever, in their infinite wisdom, the authorities in power, they decided कि was they'll go with Shuchi Upadhyay. So भी ठीक है, चलता है. इंडिया के सारे लेफ्ट आर्म स्पिनर्स इतने बेजान क्यों लगते हैं यार? सब हार्मलेस हैं. एक्स दिन मॉलिन्यू जैसे टाइप्स क्यों नहीं है यार? आप ऐसा बोलोगे तो दैट्स लाइक आई डोंट नो सेइंग कि इंडिया के सारे बैटर्स मिताली राज क्यों नहीं है, हरमनप्रीत कौर क्यों नहीं. मतलब आप सीधा बेस्ट से कंपेयर कर रहे हो यार क्रिकेट लड़की. लाइक डू यू थिंक दैट्स अ टैड बिट अनफेयर? नहीं है?
Yeah, I think it was a fair bit unfair, and I'm slightly confused with it as well, because I think the Indian spinners have done well, right, against those oppositions, especially in subcontinent conditions, in conditions that offer some amount of spin. So I think it's just about giving them that sort of time to set. Considering how the team think tank, just keeps throwing these players here and there, getting them in the setup, throwing them away. I think the players are just making the most of whatever games they get. So far, whatever we have seen, of be it Charani, be it Shuchi Upadhyay and all of that, has been great. But let's just give them opportunities before we attach terms like this. And comparing them to the likes of Sophie Eccleston and Sophie Muller is probably a little too far fetched, because all of them are probably in a league of their own, and our spinners are probably also doing their bulk of whatever they can do with BCCI being so unpredictable with the selection. So I'm probably not going to read into this too much here.
To be honest, according to me, the best left arm spinner is not even a part of the squad right now in Sri Lanka. Like, I really think Tanuja Kanwar is arguably the best left arm spinner we have right now. Jitna WPL maybe dekha compared to even Sri Chani. I loved what I saw of Sri Chani, but again, the sample size was too small. She's a youngster. Maybe they are trying to sort of take a punt on her and see how it goes. She's also an all-rounder, so that definitely works in her favor. But yeah, अगर आपने जो ये harmless वगैरह की बात की ना, please do check out Tanuja Kanwar. Very similar to Sneh Rana in that a thinking bowler. She looks at batters, she observes feet movement, she changes her line, she has the ability to be flexible with her bowling. In fact, she's also got that 20-yarder. She bowls from behind the umpire if required. Has the ability to flight it up, has the courage to flight it up and bait batters. तो बहुत potential है वहाँ पे तनुजा के पास. Unfortunately, she's not a part of the Tri Series right now. अगर अगर बॉलर सारे ऑपोजिशंस के अगेंस्ट सेम है, दीप्ति का 4 नंबर्स क्यों है? अरे यार, आप गलत ट्रेन पकड़ रहे हो क्रिकेट लड़के, मतलब आप एकदम गलत ट्रेन पकड़ रहे हो. अब मेरी गलती है, शायद मैंने मतलब ठीक से एक्सप्लेन नहीं किया होगा, बट वील सेव दिस. हम बात करेंगे इसके ऊपर, थोड़ा और बात करेंगे, लेकिन इससे पहले दूसरे कमेंट्स भी हम ले लेंगे. Mithila Farzana Antora says, manifesting Smithy's 11th century in a 100th ODI match. Love from Bangladesh. Oh, well, fingers crossed for that, Mithila. We'll all love to see Smithy score her century. Importantly, we'll also love to see Bangladesh being a part of the World Cup. Yeah. So congratulations there, Mithila. Hopefully, you're also thrilled about your side making it. And, there are some exciting talents coming from Bangladesh too. So, आपके लिए भी बहुत बहुत बधाई. I just realized I don't think she understands Hindi, but okay, congratulations. Yeah. I'll remind you all that Sneh Rana was the player of the match in the test match against Australia. Says Janvi, exactly. There you go. I mean, I don't think we need to prove Sneh Rana's credentials. Yeah, you can just go and check our episode of Unwind with cricket.com, where she was a guest and she spoke about all things cricket and her life and her career. Please do check that out only on our channel right now. Maybe after the live stream ends, of course. Ash Vinmar also goes on to say, given the current situation in the country, do you think that both Pakistan and Bangladesh will come to play the Women's World Cup 2025 because both these teams have recently won the qualifier? That is an interesting point, right, Neha? Like, do you think there is going to be any consequences? There have been a lot of things happening in the background, politically and otherwise. There's been a bit of an ugly situation, to say the least, and I'm being very polite when I put it that way. Given that, do you think it could potentially harm Pakistan and even maybe Bangladesh's chances of playing the World Cup?
Yeah, potentially, man, because the geopolitical implications of everything that's been happening around us could have an impact and just trickle down to sport itself. But at least from what we've understood right now, I think PCB's chairman did talk about a neutral venue coming into play, right? It happened during the Champions Trophy as well, where India was playing from a neutral venue. And it might be a similar situation for Pakistan in this Women's ODI World Cup as well. So I hope the best thing happens where, both the teams get to participate irrespective of what happens. Perhaps if not traveling to India, at least if teams are traveling to another neutral venue to play them, it still happens because both of them, through their hard work, have made it here so far. I know a lot of people will disagree with me that Pakistan we should not probably engage in any matches with them, but that's probably a discussion for another day. But I hope they come to a common consensus and go the neutral venue way. But that would again mean a lot of teams having to travel back and forth, and the kind of venues that have been reportedly chosen for this Women's ODI World Cup, it's looking a tad bit uncertain, and that's probably another reason why the venues haven't been formally announced still. They want to see how this situation plays out. So slightly uncertain times, but I hope the best decision is taken in the interest of all the teams.
To be honest, like Darshan says, Pakistan playing at a neutral venue was always a given. I don't think there were any questions about that. Now the concern is, because India are hosts of the event, do they actually want to host the Pakistan cricket team? So that's the question that needs to be answered. And once again, I don't think the boards themselves will have any say. It's the government's dictate that will direct all of these decisions. I don't think BCCI will have any power whatsoever to say कि नहीं भाई हम नहीं खेलेंगे या नहीं भाई हम खेलेंगे. If the government says कि नहीं भाई तुम लोग नहीं खेलोगे, then they will have to maintain that stance. So we'll have to wait on it. Once again, we aren't geopolitical experts, so we would be the last people on earth to have any updates, so to say. These were just our thoughts as fans of the sport. So apologies if we've gotten anything wrong. Apologies if you I mean, if we sort of misspoke, just trying to keep it as civil as possible. We love to see every team play, but given everything that's happening, of course, we will have to understand if certain decisions are taken. We probably will have no choice but to adhere to it. And like he also goes on to say, the Indian staff have also left from the PSL. Clearly, there's been a standoffish sort of a situation. So, whatever. Anyways, coming back to cricket, we've spoken a fair bit about Team India. In fact, Akshay also goes on to say, Harleen, the old strike rate was a concern for me in both games. May come back to bite when they're playing stronger teams. Your thoughts? Akshay, we spoke about this a tad bit earlier while touching upon India's batting. Do check that out. In the interest of time and also because, and in the interest of not repeating ourselves, we'll just sort of move forward. Apologies for that. You are my namesake. I'd wish to talk more about what you asked, but just pardon our, hurry or urgency. यहाँ पे बढ़िया क्वेश्चन है यार. I think the Sri Lankan team is better with Hasini Pereira as their opener and the batting order they had against South Africa. Neha, something we spoke about, on the day of the tournament opener, if I'm not wrong, you brought it up in our group. Kia Hasini Pereira's opening. I actually liked it even then. मैं बोला भी था कि that's actually not the worst of moves. I did like what I'd seen of her. Happy so far with how the keepers performed for them.
Absolutely, because I think in the first game itself, right, at the toss, when Chamari was asked about the changes, she just seemed so confused and she didn't really drop a hint that, Vishmi Gunaratne was not going to be a part of it. But again, just coming to Hasini Pereira, she's made an absolute mark for herself in the two matches so far, very high impact. Sort of, I wouldn't say call it cameos, but knocks itself, because Chamari Atapattu has again seemed very, woefully out of form. Again, takes me back to a conversation I think we've all been having, that probably after that Women's Asia Cup, she's kind of checked out a little bit and has looked like a very pale shadow of her very dominant self, right, which is unfortunate. But I think it's again signs of good things for Sri Lanka that other players are stepping up. Say the likes of Hasini Pereira, you have Harshita Samara Vikrama, Kavisha Dilhari coming in later. Vishmi did play the game versus South Africa as well, couldn't make much of an impact coming in at number 3, but you still have other characters, right, who are stepping up and delivering, which is really good signs for Sri Lanka. Hopefully they can up the ante and eventually keep winning and probably square off better against teams in the World Cup as well. But so far, whatever I've seen of Hasini Pereira, irrespective of my reservations against her coming into open, she's done well. And the strike rate also seems decent, considering how the other batters are batting around her. So it shouldn't be that much of a concern.
To be honest, I do agree with Sanjit. Like, I did like that lineup, Hasini and Chamari to open. Then you've got Vishmi at 3. Then you've got Samara Vikrama, Harshita Samara Vikrama. You've got then Kavisha Dilhari. You've got Anushka Sanjeevani at number 6, number 7. I think that's enough quality batting there in the top order, to ensure that you can get to a par score, if not above par. So good on them for, trusting someone like a Hasini Pereira to be promoted and do well for them as an opener. Very happy for her and the team, of course. But for me, Sri Lanka ke liye, the name that's really stood out, Malki Madara, वो न्यूजीलैंड सीरीज के टाइम पे भी I had mentioned क्या जितना देखा है थोड़ा बहुत I have liked what I've seen of a nice slingy action movement भी मिल रहा था उनको न्यू बॉल के साथ. यहाँ पे तो एकदम अच्छा क्या है, the way she bowled to the likes of Laura Wolfart, Tasman Britz, and even the Indian openers for that matter. Very happy so far, and Neha, thrilled with Sri Lanka finding newer names, newer talents coming into the setup.
Absolutely, and that's where I'd really like to credit, how the think tank has been very progressive and proactive with, blooding in a lot of players from the under 19 setup itself, right? Be the likes of Devni Bihanga. Then you have, I hope I'm not pronouncing the names wrong, but even Malki Madara, all of them, just coming in from the domestic circuit and the under 19 World Cup, just doing exceedingly well. Because I think this was another point we were discussing about Sri Lanka, that it looks like a very aging side. They're probably going to have a lot of players announcing their retirement in probably the next 2-3 years, and you need fresh players to come up and actually take the mantle. And with the performances like this coming in, I think Sri Lanka cricket is definitely in safe hands. They might have that bit of a transition problem, which even the men's team did face, when the likes of Kumar Sangakkara, Mahela Jayawardene, and all of them did hang up their boots. But at least right now, with the young Turks, they're just coming in and making their impact. Sri Lanka does seem to be a team in the right direction, and massive credits to, just being able to get those under 19 players so seamlessly into the setup.
मजा तो आएगा भाई उनको देखने में. Like I don't think they will just they'll be pushovers or anything like that, especially with this batting lineup and with the bowling also, doing not too badly, and given that the conditions will be in their favor, spinners coming into play and all of that. World Cup में मजा तो आएगा उनको देखने में. And Pavan also asked us venues for the World Cup. Mullapur, Indore, Raipur, Trivandrum and Vizag. Those are the 5 venues for the Women's World Cup, Pavan. That's scheduled to happen later this year. September 29th is the tentative starting date, and the finals are expected to happen on the 2nd of November, sorry. These are all tentative dates. Wait कर लेते हैं. पता चला एंड में कि दिसंबर में खेलने लगे तो पता नहीं. I mean, jokes of course. We still don't know though. We have no confirmation on the dates yet. ICC had selected a venue for this year's Women's ODI World Cup, in which one of the names is of a stadium in Indore. Don't you think instead of Indore, one of the names should have been Jaipur or Bangalore? Ayush, I mean, don't you think? I think you're being very polite. मैं तो सीधा सीधा बोल रहा हूँ कि शर्म नहीं आती क्या? To whosoever it may concern, no names taken. And also, correction, Ayush, ICC hasn't selected venues. I don't think ICC is going around saying कि इंदौर दे दो, वाइजैक दे दो. ICC को क्यों चाहिए वाइजैक? ICC ने शायद सुना भी नहीं होगा ना, मतलब आधे से ज्यादा शहरों का इनमें से. And again, with no disrespect to the cities themselves, I really hope that I am proven wrong and we see record-breaking crowds in each of these cities. It's just that these aren't cities exactly known for their love for the sport. And by that, I mean women's cricket. We almost always do the mistake of conflating women's cricket with cricket in general and just assume कि हाँ यहाँ पे cricket तो देखते हैं लोग. नहीं है भाई, अलग sport है. So you'll have to create some awareness. So of course, man, Bangalore, Jaipur भी नहीं भाई, Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, क्या मर गए थे क्या ये सारे शहर? क्या हुआ था? I have no clue. So Ayush, of course, we really wish and we still hope कि there is a change of heart. किसी को तो मतलब आ जाए दिमाग में कि यार what, हमने शायद ये गलत कर दिया, एक आध अच्छा वेन्यू दे देते हैं. By अच्छा, I mean proven venue. It's not that these venues are bad or the facilities aren't good. It's just that they're not known for their support of the sport. That's pretty much it. SS98 going on to mention his potential 11, I'm guessing, for the World Cup. Pratika, Smriti, Jemmy, Harman, Tejas, Samanjot, Kashi, Gautam, Sneh, Rana, Tanuja Kanwar, Arundhati Reddy, Renuka Singh Thakur. Interesting assist. That's a very good lineup, that's for sure. I like that you've included Tejas as well. That's a very interesting name you've mentioned. Deepti Sharma is missing out. Very interesting once again.
And is Richa also missing out? Yeah.
Oh, Richa's also missing out. Yeah. Who's your keeper then?
Keeper, हाँ, yeah.
SS98, आप ही 12th man बन जाओ, keeper कर लो.
But honestly, it's nice to see SS98 back with the playing 11 lineups. I remember during a lot of our episodes, we see their presence there.
Yes, that is true. Last but not least, let's talk about South Africa as well. What we made of them so far. Neha, again, a depleted squad. Maizan Cup, Anika Bosch, 2 very important cogs in that batting wheel of theirs, missing out. Clearly, that's played a role in their performances so far.
Yeah, it's definitely had a massive say. I don't know what's happening with Marzan Cup. I understand she's, probably aging. They want to conserve her best for, the more marquee events. But without her, the bowling attack really looks a little spineless. For the lack of a better word, I will use spineless, because a lot then depends on the other bowlers to, deliver as much. Laura Wolfart herself has not looked that dominant with the bat, which has a massive say in the scores that they have been able to put up so far. Great to see Tasman Brits, get that century lately. And I think a lot of us were excited. We are like Team Tasman Brits, switching sports at such a, I wouldn't call it old age, like at such a later part in her career, and doing exceedingly well. But even the contributions coming in later, right? The likes of Suneli's, who I thought should bat probably a little up in the order, but coming in so much more later. Chloe Tryon doing well. And I think you would be very happy, Akshay, that Anne Dirksen too, right, has been stepping up so beautifully. I think Marzan Cup herself had spoken about, her being a potential successor. And so far she's been doing exceedingly well. Probably Dirksen can work a little bit on her bowling, but at least on the batting side of things, really been happy of whatever we have seen. And Lara Goodall, right, coming in as a late replacement for Annika Bosch, has looked technically so proficient, and seems like that's sort of a pattern who's filled the shoes so beautifully, right, of Annika Bosch. So South Africa again would probably have to still figure out what is not working out for them. It's because it's not that they don't have the players, right? You still have the likes of Nadine de Klerk and all the other names I mentioned before. But collectively, as a unit, if they can just click, I think they are going to be quite unstoppable. And one team you clearly just cannot write off.
Yeah, I mean, Lara Goodall also is a name I thoroughly enjoyed watching. Aniri Dirksen तभी वो मतलब ऐसी she तो I just watch games to get to see her bat. Again, just love seeing her do her thing. Very aggressive, very entertaining, to be honest. My first I'll keep going back to my first thoughts on her India South Africa series when she made her debut. Yeah, like just one of those chirpy characters, bubbly characters who's just happy to be a part of the game. One of those. Yeah, मैं खुश हूँ, मैं खेल रही हूँ भाई. और ज़्यादा कुछ है नहीं. So I just love that. I love that you need a bit of that energy to seep into the setup because you can't always be professional and strict and all of that. You need some of that bubbliness and all of it. So very, very happy to see her do well. Bowling, is still a work in progress. Unfortunately, got thrashed for a few against India, but I think she's got the goods. It's now all about becoming a better bowler as well, and that happens. That's an iterative process. You need to give it some time before she becomes a much better bowler. Lara Goodall, though, I'm very happy to see her do well for the South African team. That augurs very well once again because full strength batting lineup of I don't know Tasman, Laura. Then you've got number 3 Annika Bosch, number 4 Lara Goodall, number 5 Sune Lees, number 6 Marizan Kaap. Number 7, Chloe Tryon. Number 8, Aniri Dirksen. Again, I'm probably adding a batter too much, but that's packed with solid options who can win a game for you on their given day. Any one of them. So that's just very, very, very good. I know Lara, last game 46, looked very good and she got a couple of chances in terms of drop catches and all, but I mean, it's all about making them count. So no one's going to remember कि भाई कितने catches drop हुए थे जब तूने century मारा था. नहीं रखेगा यार. So good on her. I'm happy to see that. Bowling wise, interesting choices that they've gone for because Ayabonga Khaka ke hone ke baad bhi they've stuck to Masapata class, of course, from one end. And Nadine de Klerk was given the new ball, in the last game. I was very surprised because we all know Ayabonga Khaka and her ability to move the ball. I was a tad bit surprised by that. Not sure what exactly were they trying to do. And Seshni Naidu also, अब chance नहीं मिला. I really thought that she would be given every game this series. Hasn't been the case so far. They have stuck to, of course, Malaba to hai. You've got Chloe Tryon as the other spinner along with Sune Lees, and they've just stuck to it, which I think is a tad bit underwhelming. Something we've spoken about earlier as well. Ki Chloe Tryon and Sune Lees at best are your 8th, 7th, and 8th options. They cannot be your frontline spinners. They are part-time spinners and you should use them as such. You should not go around expecting them to deliver 8-10 overs that do well for you. In fact, Shajan also goes on to mention South Africa have been poor in ODIs last year. They've been the worst performing spin contingent among all the World Cup teams, and they've missed the trick by not trying someone like a Kayla Reinke. Oh, that's also an interesting name. I remember Jeet speaking about her. But Neha, wo spinners ka again, फिर से, Sajan also spoke about this. I also mentioned it briefly. क्या लगता है वहाँ पे? Why do you think are they not, bringing in newer options? Because World Cup India में होने वाला है. जाहिर सी बात है कि थोड़ा बहुत तो spin आएगा. Like, it will aid spinners, the surfaces that is. Do you think they have probably missed it like Shajan says here?
Absolutely fair points brought in there, and I think Akshay, our discussion as well. Before the tri series, I was wondering why South Africa didn't go in with someone like a Kayla Reinke, right? Has done exceedingly well for South Africa in age group cricket and in domestic cricket as well. So it was a bit of a shocking decision that they didn't include her. Chalo, they didn't include her, but at least the kind of resources they had within their squad, right? As you have rightly mentioned, Seshni Naidu should have probably, made the cut. So South Africa again are probably, sticking to the very CSK strategy of, just trusting your experienced players to deliver time and again, just keep giving them that sort of a longer rope. Now that Sune Lees and Chloe Tryon have done very badly, but I agree with you that they can't be your frontline spinners when you have other options, right? It's not like they have a lacuna or like some infrequent spinners generating from that region. So what is stopping you from doing that is something South Africa will definitely have to contemplate, because I'm not sure if they play a lot of cricket in the lead up to that World Cup later this year. So they they will probably have to reevaluate their options and see how it goes. Seshni Naidu did get a few games, I think, during the World Cup, right? But again, wasn't able to make that sort of an impact. Probably that played against. Why she didn't get an opportunity. But I hope that they kind of rethink their strategies and just make the most of their spinners, man. The World Cup is happening in subcontinent conditions, and this tri series would have probably been a very good platform for a lot of them to just raise their hands and gotten those wickets. It's not lost for them yet, but they will have to really just rush now.
Yeah, and last but not the least, our very own Gaurav Nandan Tripathi saying Chloe Chavan is properly washed. Speaking colloquially, I don't think he was looking to hold back over there. Firstly, I've never been a big fan of her. I've not even minced my words when it's come to her. In fact, मेरे को गुस्सा आया उस दिन against India. They were chasing 70 runs in the last 15 overs, and they promoted Chloe Chavan over Anidhi Duxit. मेरे को अंदर से इतना गुस्सा आया, मतलब क्या बोलूं मैं, like I don't rate her batting, I don't rate her bowling. Again, this is my personal opinion. I know she's not done too badly for them and all of that stuff, but भाई इतना अंदर से जब भी देखता हूँ, like बैटिंग करती है तो लगता है अच्छा bowling अच्छा कर लेगी, bowling करती है तो लगता है बैटिंग अच्छा कर लेगी, वैसा वाला सीन है. She's that kind of an all-rounder. What was that chase in the last 10 overs? Don't even start me on that, Gaurav. Like, I low-key was hoping that South Africa will make a match out of it because at the end of the day, you want to see good cricket being played, and I really thought South Africa snatched defeat from the jaws of victory there. They really had the game in their hands. Just a few moves here and there. What's also been a tad bit surprising for me is the fact that someone like a Karabo Misu has been promoted up the order. Number 4 पे उनको खिलाया जा रहा है. I don't know what was the logic there because you've got such good batters lower down once again. Dirksen. आप क्यों मतलब उनको ऊपर भेज रहे हो? Because she did not look the part. I mean, they know better, so let's hope they know what they're looking to do over there. At this point in time, because they don't have Annika Bosch and Marizan Kaap, they're probably just looking to experiment and see how it goes about. So be it. I was surprised that MI retained her in place of Lizzie Wong. There, to be honest, they should have released both. That's how I look at it, because Lizzie Wong ka release hona to banta hi tha, because she hadn't been in the greatest of form herself and all of that. So she was still working herself back into international cricket or the top level of cricket. So I could still understand that. But yeah, Chloe Travan being retained just does not make any sense. But again, Mumbai Indians and Julian Goswami and Charlotte Edwards, they have made a habit of, making us questioning ourselves for having certain opinions. This is just one of them. Those shots from Tryon, Lees, etc. made me feel like they're not even trying to win. See, Lees is not a basher. So I'll probably just, I've just accepted it. I've internalized it. But Tryon, who's expected to be a finisher, an aggressive stroke maker, it was genuinely a tad bit bizarre. So, समझ में आता है, ठीक है. Anyways, I hope that they have been able to learn their, mistakes, learn from their mistakes, that is, and they become a better team, especially with the addition of, the likes of Bosch and Kaap whenever they're fit. I think they will be a much better and more improved side. But सेशनी नायडू को चांसेस तो दे दो यार, कहीं ना कहीं किसी को तो ड्रॉप करके चांसेस दे दो, मतलब कुछ तो कर लो भाई प्लीज. लास्ट बट नॉट द लीस्ट, श्रीलंका से अपन चलते हैं सीधा इंग्लैंड की तरफ, जहां पे उन्होंने नया कप्तान अनाउंस किया. Nat Sciver-Brunt has been appointed England skipper. Neha, we all saw this coming. We cannot act surprised. Oh, Nat Sciver-Brunt, oh my word, we had not seen this. No, none of that. But even then, Nat Sciver-Brunt, Charlotte Edwards, what do you think does it hold for the England team's future?
I think Nat Sciver-Brunt and Charlotte Edwards happened them to script fresh history for England, right? After all the heartbreaks that they've been facing over the course of all of these years, right? I think the last silverware that they won was the 2017 World Cup that happened at home. After that, it's been one underwhelming performance after the other, more notably being that Commonwealth Games or even the Women's T20 World Cup, right? So Nat Sciver-Brunt's appointment does feel like a step in the right direction. And I think Nat Sciver-Brunt and Charlotte Edwards both, produce magic together, right? We've seen that happen for Mumbai Indians at the WPL. And it's just very exciting to see where this partnership can, just take England to greater heights, the kind of mindset the team culture and philosophy that just rubs off between each other will be very, very important for England. I think Nat Sciver-Brunt, again, her appointment was not shocking because she was always going to be the front runner, considering the volume of runs and wickets she's taken for England over the course of these years. Has been the vice captain for so long, has just been a part of the setup in possibly all capacities and that leadership group as well. So extremely delighted to see this. And with Charlotte Edwards, I just love reading Charlotte Edwards' press conferences, the reports and all. There's just so much positivity and a sense of direction, which I think John Lewis clearly did not have, and that kind of reflected in the results. I know a lot of people will bring in the aspect of just see the win percentage and all of that, but again, how much were they able to make the most of it in like marquee events, right? That is a clear indication of how things were just not working out well for them. So all in all, really happy that Nat Sciver-Brunt has been appointed. But now I think the major task for her will be to just get the team together, work really well with Charlotte Edwards, and see how they can win, the women's Ashes, which they last won in like 2014 under Charlotte Edwards' captaincy, and more importantly, also how they're able to make the most of it at World Cup. So definitely an exciting phase for England. And even just reading this aspect that I think Amy Jones was probably not that interested to take up captaincy. Even Sophie Eccleston, right? Probably her not doing that interview with Alex Hartley didn't work out so well. So probably, she was also entirely out of contention. Charlie Dean herself probably didn't seem too interested again to take up captaincy, and Grace Crivens would have been like an absolute punt, on England's part. So वो थोड़ा ज़्यादा ही हो जाता है because she's not made her debut in the senior side of things, right? So all in all, again, just very, very happy that Nat Sciver-Brunt is here to stay, and hopefully, the pressures of like motherhood and her all-round responsibilities just don't take a toll on her.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough in the sense that, see, Nat Sciver-Brunt is definitely going to be, a pillar of the next 10, a pillar for the next 10 years, so to say. So, उस हिसाब से तो टेंशन की बात नहीं कि, क्या है, not she offers value with the bat, ball field, a proper 3D player. And given that, समझ में तो आता है, brand भी है, famous भी है, ये सब, मतलब all those off-field, aspects also going in her favor. But I once again have to say, man, I know I sound like a broken record, but Nat Sciver's captaincy has been very underwhelming. मतलब बोलना तो पड़ेगा भाई, अभी ऐसा captaincy की बात कर रहे हैं ना, हम player की बात नहीं कर रहे. Sample size is big. अभी ट्रेंट रॉकेट्स के लिए वो रही है कैप्टन, ऐसा नहीं है कि वो सिर्फ 1-2 मैच. मुंबई इंडियंस का सैंपल साइज छोटा है, बट कुछ डिसीजंस ना सैंपल साइज के बेसिस पे नहीं देखा जाता. सर्टेन डिसीजंस एक मैच में तुम्हें पता लग जाता है कि नहीं. अगर लाइक यू डोंट नीड a sample size of 20 games to realize कि हाँ पेसर के बल्ले यहाँ पे स्पिनर डाला जहाँ पे स्पिनर को डालना चाहिए. मतलब certain elementary errors, you don't have to wait for sample size factors to kick in. And given that, I still hold my thoughts. Of course, I just hope it does not take anything away from Nat Sciver-Brunt, the player. I still hope that she continues to perform just as well as she has earlier. This would also mean that she will be arguably relying upon herself a lot more, given that she is the skipper. So, does that make her a better player? Does she come out of it a lot more worse? Only time will tell. I really hope, genuinely hope from the bottom of my heart that it is the former. What really works well for Nat Sciver-Brunt and England is the fact that they've got someone like a Charlotte Edwards who knows a thing or two about winning trophies, about winning championships, both as coach and captain. So that will really keep them in good stead. But all in all, interested to see how this duo plays out, or how this duo actually do well or not for Team England. They start their first assignment against West Indies. That's happening a couple of weeks from now, and then later on, it's of course the marquee series versus India. 3 ODIs, 5 T20Is. बहुत मजा आने वाला है वहाँ पे तो. I guess on that note, it's probably time for us to wrap up today's episode of the Women's Cricket Podcast. Apologies for that before. We will be live by me. Unfortunately, Neha won't be with us, but I will be going live with Avnish later tonight at 7:30 p.m. It is another marquee game. It's RCB taking on CSK. We will be doing a watch along for that. There'll be fan cams after that. Fingers crossed as an RCB fan, I see RCB for the first time in IPL history complete the double over CSK. I still can't believe that they've never, ever done that. So hopefully wo dekhne ko milega. So please do join there. And I know we've not mentioned this during the episode, but guys, please make sure you hit the like button. Please do that. That's how the algorithm works. We want more people to join our community. We will take all your comments. We'll of course talk about all of it. But please make sure to hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. We will be back next on the 24th of May. It's a rest day during the IPL. The playoffs will be done and dusted. And we will be probably then talking about how RCB has made it to the finals. Until then, it's a goodbye from us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care. Bye-bye.